Divine beings, peace, love, abundance, blessings. My name is AstroPapi, and today we're going to talk about the importance of our shadow sides and the importance of shadow work and how to draw wisdom upon your darker side or your shadow side. Now, this is a YouTube channel dedicated to empowerment, manifestation, spell work, occult sciences, and manifestation as well to live your best life, to be the best alchemist for your reality. So, when we are talking about the dark side, of who we are, this is the undercurrent of us. This is the hidden side that not everybody sees, but we have. And truth be told, there is a lot of false spiritual dogma out there that tells us to just focus on the love and light, that tells us to just stay in the light, focus on the light, never go into the dark. But the thing is, we are dual beings. We have yin and yang, and we have a dark side. And our dark side is a response to our human experiences. Our dark side, our shadow side, can come from past pains. Maybe these are early childhood pains. Maybe these come from how people have hurt us, how people have treated us in the past. And I don't want to get even deeper than that, but maybe our shadow side comes from our past lives. So your shadow side is your darker side. Think of this as your personal devil on your shoulder, and then you have your light side, which is the angel in your shoulder. Now, the thing is, yo, when we deconstruct spirituality, light and dark are not good or bad. They just have different means to an end and different approaches and principles. And when you want to be whole, when you want to be full, you understand that you are both darkness and light, that you have both the demon in your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. And that's why I always like to refer to the High Priestess card of Tarot. Like I have here, the High Priestess stands between the pillar of light and the pillar of darkness. And she is the card representative of intuition, of spiritual mastery, of knowing secret sciences and occult sciences. So she is an embodiment of being in full harmony with your dark and light side. All right. So one of the questions that I got very recently was, how do you balance your dark and light, and how do you better work with your shadow side? There are a lot of people who say you have to discipline your shadow side, you have to parent them, you have to like almost control them, or you have to fully reject them and you can't listen to them. However, as we know, if we have a certain vice, a certain lust for something, a certain hunger for something, or repressed emotions that we don't want to confront, when we ignore them and act like they don't exist, they actually just get bigger and they start to grow in our subconscious, and eventually they take over. So to be honest, yo, you cannot hide or compartmentalize an emotion, a feeling, a desire, a craving for too long. You have to confront it if you want to change it. And that's where you have to transmute it as an alchemist, meaning that you have to look at, okay, where does this dark side come from? Where does this dark habit come from? Where does this dark vice come from? And diagnosing it, but not with a way of shaming yourself or guilting yourself, but rather asking yourself, where can I have compassion for myself? Maybe your shadow side is very angry at people. Maybe your shadow side is like, don't trust anybody. And maybe that sounds quote unquote irrational not to trust anybody, but that's your shadow side's way of knowing that you've been hurt by others in the past and they want to protect you right here, right now. So that is the shadow side. And you approaching this with compassion rather than judgment. You don't say, oh, you're invalid for your feelings or you're being irrational. No, you say, I understand where you're coming from. I understand where you're trying to help me. And where can you and I find a balance here? Where can you and I find an understanding here? There are times in your life where you don't know if you should be in your shadow or in your light. You don't know who to trust. You don't know who to be kind to. And it honestly just takes life experience to know what somebody who treats you good is like, somebody who treats you good with unconditional love is like, and somebody who's using you feels like. And your shadow side is your warrior side. So eventually, when you learn to look at your pain, your suffering, and how that made you, how that made your darker side or your shadow side, and you don't see it from a place of judgment, but rather from compassion and understanding, you can actually befriend your shadow side. Now, there's cartoons and animes about this. Like, for example, I'm thinking of Venom from Marvel, right? Spider-Man. Like, Venom and the guy who ended up having Venom, like, they had to become friends. Venom was dark. very violent and aggressive, and the dude who had to like embody Venom's energy, he had to learn how to talk to it. He had to learn how to not be consumed by it. Because the opposite of that, if we're going into the Marvel section, is Carnage, and Carnage doesn't know how to control it. You also have Naruto, right? If y'all ever watched Naruto, he has a nine-tailed demon fox inside of him. And throughout the show, he would have bursts of his shadow self coming out and create raising havoc. And then he looks back and then regrets it. So then he had to learn how to show up to his inner demon, or in this show, that demon, and befriend them. And then they became warriors together. And through that, he unlocked so much inner power. This is seen in so many superhero movies too, where people are afraid of tapping into their anger because they know that it can be so destructive. But when they learn to honor it, to breathe through it, to speak back to it, their anger, they're able to find a source of power, and that is the power of the shadow. The power of the shadow is having to remind your shadow self too, hey, you've been hurt before. So you have these triggers. You have these parts of you, these inclinations that want to hurt people, that want to protect you, that want to cut people off. And you have to remind it like, yo, I get it. You have these thoughts, you got these feelings, but we're not there no more. Where do we stop repeating past cycles, past memories, and remind ourselves that we have control and ownership of our own life, of our own reality? But here's the thing, you can't avoid your shadows. I had a lot of pain when I first started my spiritual journey, and those who probably have like the best spiritual glow ups, those who you see who are the real deal as readers, as healers, of conduits for spirit, those who you see who have the strongest glow and light, they've been through the greatest suffering, they've been through the greatest pain. And in all honesty, I had to learn to navigate my shadows in the beginning of my spiritual experience. And that's why on my YouTube channel, I talk so much about the dark side of things. It's not because I'm going to the dark side of things to feel so sexy and empowered, and I mean I do, but I I don't go to the dark side to feel like I can destroy people. I go to the dark side to understand where my pain, where my anger, where my sadness, where my grief is coming from, because behind anger is a lot of pain and a lot of sadness. And I had to go through those currents of myself. I had to walk through those doorways of myself and give myself compassion there. And it was through seeing my greatest darkness that I saw my greatest light. So you can't find your light until you know your darkness. And there are a lot of false spiritual gurus out there, even people in general and regular, people who like to be like fake positive and toxic positive. And it's like they always want to focus on the good, nothing's hurting them, nothing's ever affecting them. But you can tell deep down inside they're hurt or they're affected by stuff. And they're just grinning and grinning and grinning away. And people who never look at their dark sides or the dark attributes, because we all have them, they walk with them, and those dark sides actually control them more than they control those who actually acknowledge it. It's the same thing with our pain and suffering. If we don't acknowledge it, our pain and suffering affects us on a subconscious level far more than we realize. So if sometimes you feel your dark side taking over, or you feel like, yo, I'm not happy right now, I feel so sad, I feel like all these memories come up, or I just feel drawn to these vices, try not to rush your healing, because healing cannot be rushed. Healing is a journey, not an outcome. Try to understand. Try to see it with eyes that are not judgmental. Try to see your evil sides, your devil sides, your demon sides, your dark sides from a place of understanding. And talk back to them. Be like, yo, we can't do this. That's reckless. Yo, I appreciate this, but I'm going to do this my way. And there's truths with our shadows, but you have to be the one to bring it back to balance. All right. So I hope that this video is a service about our shadow selves. And again, like, healing is honestly, like, spiritual healing is realizing like, oh dang, I messed up from all these different things. And I remember when I had my spiritual awakening, I was in my early 20s. I was like, yo, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to party. I'm here to be wild. Like, I'm in my 20s. And it's like, nah. Shadow work came in front and center and was like, how about we dissect all of these pains that you didn't even realize you had, or all of these subconscious belief systems that you don't even realize? How about we look at like why there's certain parts of yourself that you don't love about yourself? How about we look at like what attracts you to relationships, to friendships that are negative, to people who don't treat you good? And a lot of that was, at least for me, it could be different for you, was about my childhood upbringing and maybe like where I felt like I didn't have the love that I needed and where I may have been like spiteful about it. And spitefulness, y'all, is part of life. Like, I can't even judge anybody these days if they have spitefulness or anger or reconcile or anything like that. I mean, it ain't my business to help them do that unless they're open to that. It ain't my business to change them. But I can have understanding that some people will be bitter because of their past. Now, that ain't good either, because when you're bitter over your past, you don't allow your future to change or your present moment to change, because you're still stuck in an old energy. So you're only going to recreate those experiences with new people. That's why sometimes we date people who are similar, who represent a similar archetype, and maybe all of them hurt us. But it's because there's something in us where maybe there's like self punishment, maybe there's self hate, maybe there's self blame. And all of that, it's not easy to look at. It's a very intense sort of pathway. And I would only say just look at yourself like you would see a friend. Look at yourself maybe from the third person and give yourself love and compassion. A lot of things affect us in this human experience. We know we are pure souls that reincarnate here. And we go through human pains, through human sufferings, and we learn through them. And in a lot of places, y'all, let me tell you, beyond your pain is your power. Beyond your pain is your purpose. In that same thread of pain is so much purity, so much light, because the two of them exist. So when you acknowledge and honor your dark sides, when you acknowledge your anger and try to ask yourself, where does this come from? When you acknowledge your grief, your suffering, and ask yourself, where does this come from? Your avoidant personality, maybe your vices, maybe your addictions, maybe, I ain't judging you here. Maybe you like to chase some toxic relationships, or you like toxic relationships. Maybe that makes you feel a certain sense of a high. It's all right, That's part of the human experience. The only thing is, you don't want to fully subject yourself to your shadow. So you have to open yourself up to it. Open yourself up to those feelings, to those sensations, to that devil on your shoulder. And then you have to talk back. And I don't mean being angry at it, judging it, trying to repress it, but talk back maybe with questions. Why are you angry? Why don't you trust this person? Why do you like somebody who treats you bad? Why do you have maybe this vice? What are you trying to numb? And then you go to the origin or to the root of what caused your pain. Maybe it was a difficult experience in your past. And you show up with compassion. You show up with love. You show up reminding that past version of you, I'm still here, I'm still me, and even if I'm not perfect, I'm still good. All right? My spiritual awakening in my first many years of spirituality were shadow work. We're working with darker energies, darker entities, Santa Muerte, Kali, spirits of the dead, daemons, the Goetia. And it was because I had to learn about my own dark sides and where I needed to reclaim my power. And now I feel like I'm more in my light state. Now I feel more giddy. Now I feel more happy. And it's because I had to investigate certain things within me and purify them with compassion and understanding and love. And that's the thing. These darker entities or energies or spirit guides or gods or goddesses, they look bad on the outside because of Western society and societal conditioning, but they're actually here to teach us how to give compassion to our shadows, to our darker sides, and understanding. Everything has a polarity, everything has an opposite. The nicest person could be subjected to the greatest anger if in the right circumstances. So, shadow work is not about judging yourself. Shadow work is about bearing witness to yourself, giving yourself compassion, giving yourself understanding, giving yourself love. That's how you find your balance between your darkness and light, is by never judging what you feel. And if you feel sad, because shadow work can make you feel sad, you feel like crying, you feel like you just want to like chill and withdraw, do that. If you need to take breaks from shadow work, do that. Like, it's a journey. It's not a rush. Okay? So that's a little bit about your shadow self, yo. And your shadow self can be a divine warrior and protector, because that's the other thing. My light side wants to see the good in people, wants to be kumbaya with everybody. Then my dark side is like, actually, let's find the balance here. Because my light side is infinite compassion and love, and it's like, yo, let's all just party and get along and have a good time. But my dark side is my checks and balances. My dark side is my boundaries that I need to set. All right. It's almost when you think about the mother bear, right? What happens when somebody messes with her cubs? She goes full dark mode. And is that not love? Is that not love to protect? All right. So your shadow side could be love. Maybe it's trying to protect you from certain feelings by numbing it through other vices. Maybe it's showing you love by telling you not to trust people because it never wants you to be hurt again. Your shadow side is not coming from a place of wanting to harm you, but wanting to give you love. And maybe that love isn't the most purest or the most full or whole or complete yet, but maybe that love is still genuine. You get me? Maybe sometimes we numb our pain because our shadow side doesn't want us to feel hurt again, doesn't want us to deal with those emotions. The shadow and the light can talk together. Your dark side and your light side, your angel and your devil, they can be friends too. They gotta learn how to negotiate. And you are the mediator between them, all right? All right, y'all. I hope that this video was a service. I hope that this video was a support. I wish you all much abundance, joy, happiness, and love. My name is AstroPapi. If you want to book a private reading with me, you can do so on the about below. I offer psychic divination, spiritual mentorship, and heart-centered talks, heart-centered counseling if y'all just want to have a life talk too. All right, stay beautiful, stay abundant, stay great.